if you're on a listing that is performing well, it's smart to use ads to then scale that listing. So you're not just taking a slice of the pie, you're growing.
Let's talk shop on strategies. What are some of the strategies that you recommend, ones that have, maybe worked well, or ones that you're like, if I'm setting up a campaign, I'm doing this first? Hey guys, my name is Eric. I am one of the Zab twins. I'm here with a good friend of mine, Nick Milani. And today we're super excited to be able to sit down. We're gonna be talking about different strategies for resellers, but also I'm in the private label game. A lot of what we'll talk about today is not only gonna be relevant for resellers, but also for people in the private label game as well. So we'll dive into a lot of strategies, learn a little bit more from kind of the two ways that we operate on Amazon. And yeah, Nick, super excited to be able to chat with you today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I mean, a lot of resellers don't use Amazon ads, and even if they do, they don't know how to scale them. So let's talk shop.
Totally, yeah. I think it's a massive opportunity as well. I know obviously in our game on private label, we have to use Amazon ads to get visibility. You guys being able to sit on listings, you have a competitive advantage. But time and time again, I don't see anybody really who's reselling running ads. And I'm curious on your perspective and why people aren't actively using it. Is it a gap from education to being able to launch it? What's the whole philosophy around that?
Yeah, well, the main thing is that people don't understand that if you're not in the buy box, then Amazon won't be spending your budget. That's the main misconception. And then otherwise, this lack of education, lack of just understanding of how Amazon ads can really benefit you as a reseller. There's different resellers, right? We have some who do online arbitrage, mostly who do wholesale, and then ultimately the next level up is working with brands directly. And so a lot of people just don't understand how it could benefit. And so that's really why we're here.
Yeah.
I want to be able to kind of share how I use Amazon ads for my own reselling business, get new listings up and running, as well as working with brands, as well as, just leveraging the ads to grow existing listings as well.
Right. I think it's a huge missed opportunity. The way that I see it is like if you're not in the buy box, well, actually, let's talk about that. If you're not in the buy box and you run ads, are you potentially running ads to somebody else's listing, or is it going to go directly to yours?
Your ads will only run if you're in the buy box, right? Otherwise, if you're not in the buy box, then your ads will pause, right? With that being said, like a buyer on the West Coast versus the East Coast could see different people in the buy box. So, let's say you're in the buy box in the West Coast, the person in the East Coast will not see your product ad,
right?
And so your budget won't be spent to that person. So it's really like Amazon's figured it out. Like they will only run your budget if you're in the buy box. And so ultimately, if you're on a listing that is performing well and you're gaining and you're selling and you're like having a good portion of the buy box, it's smart to use ads to then scale that listing, right? So you're not just taking a slice of the pie, you're growing the size of the pie.
Absolutely. It's like you're taking the opportunity that you already see and capitalizing on it.
Yeah.
It's same thing in private label. It's if something is working, I'm pushing hard until we really squeeze all of the juice out of those lemons.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about your kind of experience overall. You've been reselling for how long now?
7 years.
7 years. And over that 7 years, like how much do you feel like you've spent on ads?
I would say across my reselling business, as well as building a brand for 3 years and then selling that brand and then going back into the retail reselling space, I've probably spent somewhere around like $200,000 in running ads. And that, I think, I was actually looking into this a few days ago, generated like $700,000 in sales, right? So I would say, I've spent a lot of money in testing with ads, but ultimately it's brought me like, so many sales through, like a huge return in just getting more eyeballs on the listings. And, another thing about Amazon ads that's very different than other types of ads on other platforms is that you're running ads to essentially gain ranking on the platform, right? So what I've noticed is like, sure, having a great ACoS or a great ROAS is important, but even if it's not at first glance, if you're not getting the best ROAS or ACoS, you are ultimately gaining a lot in the background, behind the scenes, because again, you're getting new customers, you're able to get better ranking over time. So the investment of using ads for a reselling opportunity or for brands that you work with directly at the end of the day is huge. And again, a lot of people are just kind of missing it.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of, in my space especially, it's all about pay to play. Like we need to spend ads to get, ranking, that back end positions that you're talking about, because that's where our profit generator is,
Hmm.
right? The more organic rank that we have, the more opportunities that we have for our product to then be seen. So I love that. I love that you're actively using it, and that's a good amount of money spent. We've spent a hell of a lot more, but again, that's a game that we play, and
Yeah.
we definitely realize that. Let's talk shop on strategies. Some of the things that have worked well for you, specifically for reselling, because I think we're going to have a lot of people listening and tuning in that are resellers. But
Hmm.
what are some of the strategies that you recommend? Ones that have maybe profited you well or worked well, or ones that you're like, if I'm setting up a campaign, I'm doing this first.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So there's a golden nugget strategy that I learned a few years back, which is absolutely
I
killer
think I know this
for,
one too.
yeah, yeah, killer for reselling opportunities, especially if you're selling like very random things. You don't have exclusivity. You might be selling completely different brands, maybe just one SKU off of a brand. It's called the low bid strategy, and ultimately it's having all of your products pooled into one campaign where your daily budget could be very high, $100, $200 more, but your bid is very low,
Yeah.
right? And so Amazon will always give you a recommended bid. And what that means is like the whole Amazon ads kind of structure is that you're bidding on keywords. But with this strategy, instead of taking that recommended bid or even going higher to try to be on the top of the first page, we're actually going very, very low. And we're trying to only put maybe 5 cents or up to 10 cents
Yeah.
as your bid. And naturally you're going to be on the third or fourth page maybe, because your bid is so low. But what I've noticed is that when people are very specific to a keyword and they're digging for something, they might be on the second or third page of their search. By then they're fatigued and tired and they just want to make a choice and
Yeah.
move forward. Your ad can be there. And so if you win a conversion at a 5 cent bid, you'll quickly notice that your ROAS is going to be very, very high, somewhere between 50 and 60 ROAS that I've seen. ACoS being like 1 to 3%. And those are just like sales that you're making,
Free sales, basically.
free sales.
Yeah, totally.
And like, you've just been running ads with a budget. If it happens, it happens. And so that's why like you can set a daily budget of $200, but realize that you're only spending maybe like $200 in a month,
Yeah.
if that, right? It happens rarely, but for you to have that campaign running is very, very interesting. And I think, again, it's something that's a must do for a lot of resellers just to have that on.
Yeah, totally. And that's in an auto campaign, correct?
That is an auto campaign,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I knew that strategy. I learned that as
Yeah,
well. So super
yeah.
cool. Cool. That's a great tactic for sure. I'm curious in reselling as a whole. Obviously, we have manual targeting, running product targeting campaigns, or exact broad phrase. Do you use any of that in your reselling business, and what does that look like?
Yeah, so this campaign that we just talked about, the low bid, that's automatic. Again, it takes 30 seconds to turn that on with an automatic campaign. But outside of that, once you have a few products that you're like, well, okay, I'm selling well, I'm
Yep.
winning like a good portion of the buy box, it's a great time to now start running ads to increase the sales and visibility of that listing. And so I always start off with automatic campaigns, but I monitor it very, very closely. Maybe with $30 to $50 a day on a great listing, or if you just want to run campaigns for a lot of listings, $5 to $10 a day is great as well. But again, it really depends on what your bid is, right? If it's a competitive keyword, then and your bid is like 80 cents to $1, then you can do the math. You're only really running ads, let's say at a $5 a day budget with $1 bid, that's like 5 times in a day
Yeah.
that your ad will show. So if you're doing the math there and if you realize the opportunity is big, then set a bigger daily budget, but start with an automatic campaign, get that going in 30, 50 seconds, literally very quickly, have a competitive bid for that, and then in about 3 business days of that running, download the search term report, and you can look at what's working and what's not working. And what I mean by that is that you can see the clicks, you can see the conversions. And my rule there is if I see a like a 10 to 20% click through rate and I see conversions, those are good keywords. You want to then start manual campaigns for those and do more phrase and exact matches. But if you see very specific keywords that you're getting, let's say 10 clicks on or more with no conversion, those are ones now that you want to create negative
Yep.
phrases for. And what that means is that you're telling the automatic campaign to not target.
Don't spend my money here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't spend my money on this keyword where people are clicking but not converting. There's some sort of a mismatch.
Totally.
So with this, this check, especially like 3 days in, a lot of people might say check a week later or check weekly or check bi-weekly.
Right.
But no, like if you're spending money there, like you want to kind of check as quickly as possible, especially for resellers, because you want to really understand what's working, what's not, and ultimately scale what is and, bring down what's not.
So yeah, with auto campaigns, what you're essentially doing is you're using that to discover new keywords, finding out what's working, pushing them into a more targeted strategy using those manual targeting options, and then going and scaling that. We do obviously very similar. We do a lot of research for our keywords and actually launch campaigns with the keyword research that we're doing because it gives us that competitive edge. But again, we play a very different game as private label sellers over a reseller. Now, if you want it to be maybe a little bit more targeted and you're doing keyword research, for instance, and you wanted to grow a listing that you already know is doing quite well, and maybe you wanted to push organic rank on that, how would you go and find those keywords? Like, what are you doing so that somebody will be able to see your listing more often?
So in the reselling space, we're selling big brand products, and chances are those big brands are already being searched for, right? So, with Amazon ads, it's all about expansion, right? So if you're already on the first page for a big brand keyword, it's probably smart to use and spend cash in other keywords and be able to really, again, increase the size of the pie there. So instead of just wasting your budget on branded keywords where you could potentially get that sale organically, you should probably spend your budget on the bigger keywords that are, different from the brands. A lot of resellers, they have a checklist. They want to find home run products that are already up there doing sales, right? But again, I think it's so interesting to find listings that are underperforming, that are not doing as good, and that a lot of resellers are overlooking for you to get on and be able to then use ads to grow them. So that's something that I'm doing more and more now. I'm looking for a great listing. I'm looking for great pictures, great optimization, great reviews on a listing that's overlooked that might be only doing 50 units a month, 100
Love
units
that.
a month, and using Amazon ads to then bring it back up. Because at the end of the day, we as sellers think algorithmically around what works like on Amazon and how does Amazon work. However, I think we always overlook that there are real people purchasing these products.
Yeah.
And so if a listing looks great and if the price is great and if you have good margin on a product, use a bit of that margin to use ads to bring that listing in front of people. And again, if you're reselling a product that's been around for decades, people are going to use and purchase that product rather than the private label product that someone just launched with 10 reviews. So use that strategy, find underperforming listings and use ads to grow it. That's something that me and my team are really looking at this year.
I think that's great because it also opens up the door on products that are probably not seen by most resellers, wholesalers, because less barrier to entry is really what it comes down to. And you can be the one to revive that listing and hopefully build a good relationship with your contacts with that wholesaler or that reseller, and ultimately grow your business that way. So I think sounds like a great opportunity.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, guys, I took away a lot. Thanks so much, Nick, for sharing. I didn't even know that a lot of wholesalers or resellers actually ran Amazon ads. So, Nick, thanks so much for sharing that. I know a lot of you guys will get value. It sounds like an opportunity that a lot of people sleep on, but don't be that person because, as you can see, Nick is actively using it in his business, growing things from there. And a lot of what he's talking about is stuff that even we use in our private label businesses as well. Nick, thanks so much for your time. And yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.